James Crumbly. He's the father of Ethan Crumbly, the school shooter at Oxford High School several years back, where he executed several of his classmates. His wife, Jennifer Crumbly, already charged 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. She has been found guilty. Now it's up to a jury to decide, is the same fate in store for James? Is he just as accountable as mom? Joining me to discuss, defense attorney Eric Faddis, former prosecutor as well. Eric, I got to ask, is this just a repeat of what we saw before, or is this a dramatically different case?
I don't think it's gonna be a huge departure from the Jennifer Crumbly trial, excuse me. But here there are some different facts. So James, it turns out, according to the government, probably purchased the firearm and that Ethan eventually used in the school shooting. And so I think that is a critical fact that sort of makes him even probably more culpable than Jennifer. So if Jennifer was found guilty, that could be problematic for James.
Yeah, I mean, it is a key fact of this. I remember in Jennifer's trial, they had talked about who purchased the firearm, when, how, and the answer was always, well, James did it. I didn't necessarily know that he was going to do it at that time. We had talked about doing it, but he went and actually carried out getting the firearm. How are they going to defend James in this? Is this going to be one of those, look, he didn't know, mom was more in tune mentally, emotionally with him, and James was just trying to get in whatever time he could because he was working so hard to try and provide for the family after he lost his other job and just liked guns. He thought he was doing getting guns for the kids. Why not? It's Michigan. I mean, what what angle do they take here?
Yeah, yikes, man. This one is gonna be tough. I think James has to play up the fact that he was really down on his luck. He was not overly engaged, in life with the family, and on top of that, the child was just really distressed. And so I think that James needs to point to sort of just how chaotic the situation was, the fact that Ethan was, of course, the individual who carried all of this out, that Jennifer played a role. And in fact, James, as uncomfortable as it might be, can blame Jennifer at the trial to say, hey, look, you already have your pound of flesh, government. It's Jennifer who was convicted. And she, if anyone else besides Ethan is responsible, it's her. And so I think that might be the approach they will take, as uncomfortable as that could be for a family.
It's got to be difficult if you're a family member of any of the children, the 4 kids who were killed in this, um, to have any sympathy or empathy for this family. And that, at the end of the day, is kind of what they're asking for James. Of, look, he's been down on his luck. He lost his job. He's doing what he can with DoorDash, and that's why he's always not around. He didn't know he's a victim here too. I don't know. I mean, everybody works their butt off, this seemed like, just kind of your average, lower middle class family that was doing what they could to keep ends met. Imagine, a lot of the jury, is that going to resonate? Or is, the end of the day, like, look, we're all doing the same thing. You just seem to be too distant.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, he's not the most sympathetic defendant, and not a lot of people feel sorry for James Crumbly. It's
Yeah.
not going to be some sort of kind of pity party that's going to somehow get traction with this jury and gain him an acquittal. So I think if he touches on that, he has to do it in a sensitive fashion that keeps in mind the gravity of the horror that his child caused.
Yeah. In Jennifer's trial, they had brought in several school witnesses to the trial, people who were actually there the day of the shooting, the firsthand accounts, the trauma that they went through. This is a trial that's not necessarily about the shooting itself. It's more so about what led up to the shooting, what enabled this to take place. Obviously, at the end of the day, it happened. Uh, is it appropriate to have people come in and recount the horrors of ultimately what happened here? But that's not really truly what is on trial. Ethan Crumbly is the one who did carry that out. We're talking about a dad who bought a gun for his kid, you know, really being with his head in the stand to the reality of what his kid was saying out loud and his cries for help.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm defense in this one, I am filing motions. I am raising objections to evidence about what happened during the school shooting. Like you said, this is a fact. It's not disputed. There
Mhm.
was a school shooting. People perished. It was horrific. But that's not what the jury really has to decide. And if there's too much evidence that's sort of inflammatory and
Mhm.
prejudicial and talking about the school massacre, that could actually taint the jury and cause them to render a verdict on a basis that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with James Crumbly, the father's action.
Mhm. Be interesting to see how that plays out and what all makes it into this trial versus what made it into Jennifer's over the next handful of weeks. Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks